Hi everyone, recently I got this package here in the mail and it contains a DIY keyboard kit, which means I have to build the keyboard myself. Now I'm not really a hardware person at all and I've never really been very good at screwing and all these practical things, so I'm a bit nervous to see how it goes, but let's give it a shot and see if we can figure this out. Now this kit doesn't come with switches, so you're going to have to order them separately. And so I went on splitkb.com, which is a very fantastic vendor here in Europe, and I ordered these silent Boba U4 switches here. The reason I chose these switches is because I plan to use the board portably, and so I'd like it to be as quiet as possible, but I still want to keep the typing feedback of a tactile switch. If we have a look inside the box here, we'll find the case itself, which is a very nice silvery aluminium. Now you can order the case in many different colors. I just chose silver because it's the one I thought looked the best. On the back we can see the Drop OLKB logo, and we can also see the little hole in the corner for the USB-C cable. Inside the box we'll also find the braided USB-C cable, as well as a socket wrench and some nuts and bolts. There's also 4 rubber feet inside of the package, so we can mount those at the bottom of the keyboard at the end so it doesn't slide around. And further down the box we'll find this little plastic thingy here, and inside we'll find the PCB itself. And at the very bottom of the box we'll find the stainless steel plate. Now of course, since I want my Preonic to be a portable keyboard, I ordered it with a carrying case, and I must say it's a very high quality case which I definitely will be using. Okay, let's get building. So the first thing I did was to slide the PCB into the case very carefully, making sure that the USB-C port was facing the right way, because the USB-C port in the PCB has to actually be available through the hole in the case, otherwise we won't be able to connect it to the computer. Next, my terrible fine motor control was put on a test because I had to screw in these very tiny screws on the back of the board to make sure that the PCB was properly seated inside the case and that it doesn't just fall out when we flip the case upside down. And then using this small head screwdriver, I just tightened all the screws that I had just threaded in with my fingers to make sure that nothing was loose. And so now the PCB has been properly installed, so we can move on to mounting the plate. Before we put the plate in, we'll need to tighten the PCB using the brass nuts and the socket wrench here, making sure not to tighten too hard, otherwise the PCB will break. And finally we can start installing the stainless steel plate. To do that, we're going to need to grab 4 of our switches and put one in each corner, because that will make mounting the plate into the PCB a lot easier. When you manage to click in one of these switches, it makes the most satisfying sound ever. Ooh. With the 4 switches in place in the plate, it's time to install the plate onto the PCB. And we can do this by simply grabbing the plate in the middle and slowly lowering it onto the PCB. And once we've done that, we just want to press down firmly on the switches in each corner to make sure that the switches are indeed seated properly in the PCB. And now we just have to grab these tiny stainless steel nuts and thread them into the plate to make sure that it's indeed tightened into the PCB and doesn't rattle once we install the switches and the keycaps. And of course we'll use the socket wrench to once again tighten the nuts into the plate. With that done, it's finally time to install all the switches into the PCB. Now I've decided to build the Preonic model that has the 2 key spacebar instead of just 1 big spacebar, because I've used a split keyboard for the past many months and have realized that our thumbs are definitely worth more than just pressing the spacebar. And so I really enjoy having more keys available to the thumbs so that I can space with one thumb and backspace with the other. With all the switches installed, it's time to make sure that everything works before we put on the keycaps. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the keyboard to the PC. Once the keyboard has made a funny noise to indicate that it's connected, I'm going to fire up a keyboard tester on the laptop. And I'm just going to press every single switch to make sure that all of them actually fire. Now, as it turns out, I am quite a bit of an oaf and somehow managed to break the legs of 3 of the switches. So I had to pull those back out and either fix the legs or just replace them with some of the spare switches that I had. It's a good thing I ordered extras. With that little problem fixed, it's time for the most exciting part, putting on the keycaps. Now, I decided to buy the acute keycap set from Drop with the Preonic. I really enjoyed how they looked, and I thought they would fit very nicely with the silver case. Thankfully, installing the keycaps is very simple. All you do is just put them onto the switch and press down firmly, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Now, for the bottom row, I decided to flip the profile upside down because I had read online that having the keys flipped upside down made it very comfortable to use them, especially with the thumbs. And there it is, it's pretty much finished. All we have to do now is install the rubber feet on the bottom of the case. So we just flip the board and stick them onto the back in each corner. And now when we have the board right side up and try and push it, it sticks very well to the table surface. Right, now since the keyboard is finished, we should do a sound test on the Boba U4 switches, and I also want to compare them to the Boba U4T switches I've got in my Moonlander, which are the thucky and quite loud variant of the same switch. Right, so I'll leave you with the sound test, but before that I will say that after having used this keyboard for a few days, it's definitely one of my favourites of all time. It's definitely been worth all the money and the hassle of assembling it, and I actually quite enjoyed it, so consider picking up one yourself in the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and please leave a like if you enjoyed, and until next time, take care.